From Keith Moon collapsing mid-set and getting replaced by a fan, to Jim Morrison getting arrested right off the stage, to Amy Winehouse forgetting lyrics and being booed off in front of thousands. These are the rock stars who were too wasted to finish the show. And one of them, let's just say, he left mid-song and never came back. Which of these train wreck performances became legendary, and which ones ended careers? Let's find out. Number 15. Keith Moon passes out mid-set. The Who, 1973. It was 1973 in San Francisco, and The Who were in full swing until their drummer literally collapsed on stage. Keith Moon, the wildest man in rock, had taken a cocktail of tranquilizers and brandy before the show even started. Halfway through the set, during Won't Get Fooled Again, he face-planted onto his drum kit and passed out cold. The band tried to carry on, but you can't really play a Who show without Moon's thunder behind the kit. So what did they do? They pulled a teenager from the crowd to finish the show. Seriously.
Anybody play the drums? Scott!
A 19-year-old named Scott Halpin hopped on stage and drummed with one of the biggest bands in the world because the actual drummer was unconscious backstage. It wasn't just a meltdown, it became rock lore. Moon set the bar for Too Wasted to Play, and no one's ever quite topped it. But a few years earlier, another frontman didn't just pass out, he got arrested right in the middle of his own show. Number 14. Jim Morrison arrested on stage, Miami, 69. Now this is what you call a rock and roll meltdown. In 1969, Jim Morrison of The Doors walked on stage in Miami completely obliterated, slurring, stumbling, and ready to cause trouble. But this wasn't just another messy set. He ended up getting arrested mid-performance. Morrison had been drinking heavily and reportedly dropped acid before the show. He taunted the crowd, mocked the police, and at one point allegedly exposed himself on stage, though no one ever caught it on camera. Still, it was enough to spark outrage, leading to charges of indecent exposure, profanity, and public drunkenness. The fallout was massive. Multiple Doors concerts were canceled, and Morrison's case dragged on for years. He was eventually convicted, but died before he could appeal.
Testing down there is the issue of artistic freedom of expression, and it's a significant issue, and the trial is very interesting.
This was one of the first times in rock history where a performer's off-the-rails behavior made national headlines. It wasn't just a bad gig. It became a symbol of the clash between rebellion and authority. And speaking of tragic symbols, Kurt Cobain's collapse in Rome still sends chills down every grunge fan's spine. Number 13. Kurt Cobain collapsing post-show. Rome, 1994. March 3rd, 1994. The beginning of the end. Nirvana had just finished a show in Rome, and Cobain, exhausted, spiraling, and silently suffering, never made it to the next day's rehearsal. Instead, he was found unconscious in his hotel room, overdosed on champagne and Rohypnol. For a few terrifying hours, fans and crew thought Kurt Cobain was gone. The show before had been surreal. He played through the pain, as always, but his energy was off, his voice shaky, his eyes distant. It wasn't a messy stage collapse. It was worse. It was quiet. Too quiet. He was rushed to the hospital and revived, but the world didn't know it at the time. This was a massive red flag, a cry for help hidden beneath the noise of fame. Just 1 month later, Cobain would take his own life, and this Rome show became the haunting prelude.
Kurt Cobain was found dead this morning at his Seattle estate. The lead singer of Nirvana was apparently at the house alone.
It wasn't just too wasted to finish the gig, it was too broken to keep going. But while Cobain's collapse was somber, Amy Winehouse's viral train wreck in Serbia was a heartbreaking disaster played out in real time. Number 12. Amy Winehouse booed off stage for slurring and forgetting lyrics. It was supposed to be a comeback. Instead, it became a public breakdown. In 2011, Amy Winehouse stepped onto a stage in Belgrade, Serbia, greeted by thousands of fans hoping to see the Soul Queen in top form. But what they got was devastating. Amy stumbled, slurred, and forgot the lyrics to her own songs. She was visibly impaired, swaying off-beat, missing cues, and at times staring blankly into the crowd like she wasn't even there. The band tried to hold it together, but it was impossible to ignore. Amy was gone in every way except physically. Fans booed. Videos went viral. It was supposed to be the start of her European tour. Instead, it was the end. Within weeks, her team canceled the rest of the shows, and just 1 month later, Amy was found dead in her London flat, age 27. And if you do not subscribe to our channel right now, we will boo you off the stage. This wasn't just a bad gig. It was a cry for help played out on the world stage, as everyone watched a once-in-a-generation voice lose the battle against addiction.
Major loss in the music world tonight. The gifted singer Amy Winehouse found dead in her London home. She was just 27.
And if Amy's set ended in sorrow, Axl Rose's legendary late arrival sparked pure chaos, riot style. Number 11. Axl Rose shows up late, visibly impaired. When it comes to rock star ego and chaos, Axl Rose is the poster child. There are many shows where he showed up late, stormed off, or didn't show at all, but one of the most infamous happened in St. Louis in 1991. Guns N' Roses was already known for unpredictability, but this night, it went nuclear. Axl arrived late, allegedly wasted, and barely made it through the first few songs. Then mid-set, he spotted a fan with a camera, yelled, and literally jumped into the crowd to attack the guy.
Take that! Now, hit that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit!
Security intervened. Axl stormed off stage, and the show was canceled on the spot. Fans went berserk. A full-blown riot broke out, chairs thrown, seats ripped up, equipment destroyed. Dozens were injured, and GNR was banned from St. Louis for life. That night became part of Axl's mythos, the dangerous rock star who could blow up a show with one bad mood and a bottle too many.
Thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.
But while Axl incited riots, Vince Neil stumbled into memes when he forgot the words to his own songs. Number 10. Vince Neil forgets lyrics and stumbles around. Sometimes it's not about a meltdown or a riot, just pure meme-worthy disaster. Vince Neil of Mötley Crüe has had a few rough nights, but one in particular stands out. A solo show in 2021 where he completely forgot the lyrics to Girls, 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 one of his own band's biggest hits. He started strong, then it all fell apart. The lyrics vanished, his voice cracked, and he physically stumbled across the stage like he was trying to find the exit. Fans watched in disbelief as Vince muttered incoherent lines, stopped mid-song, and finally said, "Sorry guys, my voice is gone." Then he just walked off. Clips went viral instantly. Rock fans were torn between laughter and heartbreak. It wasn't a one-time slip. It felt like watching a legend fade right in front of you. The crew's rep for chaos has always been part of their charm, but this time there were no flames, no fights, just silence. And if Vince forgot the words, Slash nearly forgot how to stand, but still played like a beast. Number 9. Slash playing while nearly blacked out. How do you shred like a god while barely standing? Ask Slash. Back in the early days of Guns N' Roses, Slash was living the full-blown rock star stereotype. Whiskey in one hand, cigarette in the other, Les Paul slung low. And during some of those legendary shows, he was so wasted he doesn't even remember playing. One of the most infamous moments? A set in 1988, where Slash was reportedly so drunk he had to lean against the amps to keep from falling over. His eyes barely open, legs wobbling, but somehow his solos were still fire. It became part of the GNR mystique. Slash could be blackout drunk and still outplay most sober guitarists. The guy was a walking contradiction, barely conscious yet absolutely electrifying. In later interviews, he admitted he was shocked watching old footage because he had zero memory of the gigs. Yet fans still call those shows iconic. And if Slash stayed on stage through the haze, Steven Tyler's infamous fall showed what happens when even a legend takes one step too far. Number 8. Steven Tyler falling off stage while wasted. 1 minute, he was strutting. The next, flat on his back. During a 2009 Aerosmith concert in South Dakota, Steven Tyler, high energy as ever, was working the crowd like a man half his age. But then he tried to do a little spin, slipped on the wet stage and crashed hard off the edge, falling several feet into the pit below.
This is the frightening moment Aerosmith singer Steven Tyler plunged off the stage at a concert.
The band immediately stopped playing. Paramedics rushed in, and fans were left stunned. At first it seemed like an accident, until reports surfaced that Tyler had been drinking before the show. He was hospitalized, and the rest of the tour was canceled on the spot. But the bigger story was what happened behind the scenes. The fall reportedly led to major tension within the band, and there was talk of Aerosmith replacing him. It wasn't just a slip, it was a near career-ending moment. But where Tyler fell off the stage, Courtney Love fell into full-on chaos mode during a set that felt more like a confessional than a concert. Number 7. Courtney Love playing a full set seemingly high. Courtney Love didn't just perform, she unraveled in real time. At several whole shows throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, Courtney would walk on stage clearly high, dazed, and ready to go off script. One infamous gig saw her rambling between songs, swaying off tempo, and yelling at the crowd, all while her band tried to hold the set together.
Shit and his ghost and his kid every day. Throwing that up is stupid and rude, and I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you, do it again.
The worst part? Sometimes she would stop mid-song, drop the guitar, and just start ranting about fame, grief, haters, even Kurt. It wasn't performance art, it was a train wreck with a mic. Yet somehow, fans kept coming. Because when Courtney locked in, even for a minute, she had raw, volcanic power. But those moments were often buried under haze and heartbreak. One show ended with her throwing a mic stand, kicking over her amp and mumbling, "I can't do this."
Leave now. Fuck you.
The crowd didn't boo. They just watched, stunned. And if Courtney let it all out on stage, Liam Gallagher decided to blame everyone else when things went off the rails. Number 6. Liam Gallagher forgetting lyrics and blaming crowd. When things go wrong mid-show, most artists take the hit. But Liam Gallagher, he blames you. At a 2018 solo show, Liam took the stage late, looked half asleep, and then did the unthinkable. Forgot the lyrics to Champagne Supernova. Fans tried to help, singing along to fill the gap, but instead of owning the moment, Liam stopped, pointed at the crowd and said, "You're supposed to be singing this part anyway."
So a little birdie told me this is where Oasis kind of balls it all up.
The band kept playing. Liam kind of paced around, mumbled some lines, and then stormed off before the song even ended. Fans were stunned, and the clip instantly went viral, yet another moment in the long list of Gallagher meltdowns. What made it so classic was how Liam stayed fully in character. He didn't apologize, didn't flinch, just blamed the crowd and moved on like it was their fault. And honestly,
Champagne Supernova, Champagne Supernova.
it was peak Liam. But while Liam forgot the words, Scott Weiland took the stage barely able to sing a note, and fans weren't sure it was even him. Number 5. Scott Weiland's off-key, slurred set, 2014 Texas show. This wasn't just a bad show, it was a haunting. In 2014, Stone Temple Pilots' former frontman Scott Weiland played a solo gig in Texas that became infamous for all the wrong reasons. From the first note, it was clear something was off. He slurred the lyrics, missed every beat, and sang off-key so badly fans thought it was a prank. Some literally believed it was a fake Scott Weiland impersonator. That's how far gone he seemed. He swayed, looked lost, and kept turning his back to the crowd. The video spread fast. A rock legend reduced to a shadow of himself. Scott later claimed he was just tired and battling jet lag, but fans and critics weren't buying it. Sadly, the moment became one of the last viral memories of a frontman who once defined a genre. It was uncomfortable, raw, and unforgettable. And if Weiland's performance was tragic, Tommy Lee's meltdown was just pure fury, drumsticks flying and a mid-set walk-off that shook crew fans to the core. Number 4. Tommy Lee throwing drumsticks and walking off. Mid-show tantrums, Tommy Lee made it an art form. At a 2005 Motley Crue concert, things went off the rails fast. The band was halfway through their set when Tommy, visibly pissed off and reportedly buzzed, threw down his drumsticks, kicked over part of his kit, and stormed off stage mid-song. No explanation, no warning, just boom. Gone. The rest of the band tried to cover, but without that signature Crue rhythm, the whole show started falling apart. Rumors flew. Was it about sound issues, a fight backstage, or just another night where Tommy had one drink too many? Fans were stunned. Some booed, others chanted his name hoping he'd return. He didn't. And by the next morning, rock news outlets everywhere were running with Crue crisis headlines. This wasn't just a bad night. It fed into the narrative that the band was always one breath away from implosion. Number 3. Shane MacGowan too drunk to stand during set. You don't get more rock and roll than Shane MacGowan unless you're too drunk to actually perform. As frontman of the Pogues, Shane was legendary for his voice, his lyrics, and yeah, his drinking. But at one infamous show in the early 90s, he was so wasted he literally couldn't stand upright. He slurred through the opening songs, swayed like a tree in a storm, and had to be propped up by stagehands just to finish a verse. The band did their best to carry on, but the show quickly turned into a circus. Shane mumbled lyrics, forgot whole verses, and at one point just started laughing into the mic mid-song. It wasn't just a one-off. This gig became a symbol of Shane's unraveling, a public example of what decades of excess can do, even to the most brilliant artists. And if Shane could barely make it to the mic, Pete Doherty couldn't even make it to the venue. Number 2. Pete Doherty not showing up at all. Canceled mid-show. Most rock stars stumble through a bad set. Pete Doherty skipped the whole thing. During a 2005 Libertines tour, Pete, already deep into his chaotic spiral, was scheduled to play a packed gig. The crowd was buzzing, the venue sold out. The lights dimmed, the band came out, and then, no Pete. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then a full hour. Finally, someone from the crew came out and made it official. Show's canceled. Pete never showed. Fans were furious. Some chanted, some booed, and a few started tearing up posters on the walls.
Question 2, if you want. You were 45 minutes late. That was quite exciting. Was there ever a plan to just not turn up at all?
We don't remember last time?
Yeah, we bonded, didn't we, last time we met?
Word eventually leaked that Pete had gone missing mid-tour, reportedly holed up in a hotel room and in no condition to perform. It wasn't just one no-show, it was part of a pattern that eventually led to him being kicked out of his own band. But this one? It was the moment fans realized they could no longer count on one of Britain's most explosive talents. And if you think not showing up is rock bottom, wait till you hear about Izzy Stradlin leaving a Guns N' Roses show in the middle of a song. Number 1, Izzy Stradlin leaving a GNR show mid-song. There's walking off stage. And then there's Izzy Stradlin walking out of Guns N' Roses forever. During one of GNR's biggest tours in the early 90s, Izzy was on stage with the band, mid-set, mid-riff, crowd screaming, when he simply put down his guitar and walked away. No meltdown, no drama, just gone. Fans barely noticed at first, thinking it was some kind of bit. But when he didn't return for the next song, or the one after, that's when the rumors started. Axl was raging backstage. Duff was trying to cover. And Izzy? He'd had enough. In later interviews, he admitted he couldn't take the circus anymore. The drugs, the fights, the lateness, the chaos.
Point where you're like, am I going to carry on like this or am I not, And I said, I'm not.
That night was his last with the band, and the story became a low-key legend among die-hard GNR fans. No fire, no collapse, no brawl, just a guy who literally dipped out mid-song and never looked back. And that's why Izzy Stradlin might be the most quietly savage exit in rock history. These were the most wasted, chaotic, and downright unbelievable rock performances in history. Comment below. Which one of these meltdowns or walk-offs will you never forget? And hey, if you were actually at one of these shows, we want to hear your story in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and send this video to a rock fan who lives for behind-the-scenes madness and stage disasters. And if you thought this was a rock shock, you have to check out the 15 wildest performances that changed rock forever. Click the video on screen now to find out which rock shows will never be forgotten. Rock on. And remember, some shows go off the rails, but they're the ones we never forget.